There is nothing worse than sending over the final files to your clients only for them to tell you that you've done it all wrong and they can't even use them. If you're very lucky, you may be able to fix it, but in the worst case scenario, you may even have to start over from scratch. Hello everyone! Welcome to Our Business with Ness. I'm Ness and I'm a children's book illustrator. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create a simple template for a children's book spread in Photoshop using your project's own special requirements. It is really important to get the formatting right from the start. You may not be able to fix it later. But right before we start, if you're as passionate about illustration as I am and you'd like to see more videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell. The bell sends you a notification whenever I upload a new video, and this way you're sure that you won't miss any of the advice. Alright, let's get started. The first thing that you're gonna need to do is ask some questions to your client to figure out what the project's technical specs are. The specs vary from project to project because they depend mostly on the printing company that your client is using. You're going to want to ask the book's final size, the resolution in DPI, the color profile, and the size of the bleeds. Let's cover real quick what those mean. The book size is pretty self-explanatory. It's usually going to be in inches if you're working with an American publisher and in centimeters if you're working with European markets. But sometimes it can be different. I once had a client request that an illustration be in picas, which I had never heard before or since. I almost decided that they must mean pixels, but thankfully at the last seconds, I decided to ask them just to be sure. And as it turns out, picas are actually a unit of measurement that is sometimes used in publishing. So make sure to ask your client what the final book size is and to not assume anything. The resolution is the number of pixels per inch that create the image. So while the standard for internet use is 72 dpi or pixel per inch, if you want to be printing something, you need it to be at least 300 dpi or more so that it's good quality enough. Next is the color profile. The color profile you're probably most used to is RGB or red, green, blue. Computers and tablet screens use lights colored in red, green, and blue to create all of the spectrum of colors that appear on your screen. However, we cannot print light. We have to print with inks. Most commonly used are inks in cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, which is known as the color profile CMYK. If your book is going to be printed, chances are you should be working in CMYK. That's because some colors from the RGB color profile are so bright that they literally cannot print. So to avoid sending an illustration to your client that's all bright and colorful, only for it to end up looking all weird and dull once it's printed, it's best to start working directly in the correct color profile. Most of the time, as I said, when you're working for print, it's going to be CMYK, but just to be sure, you need to ask your client. And lastly, bleeds. What are those? Full bleed is a term used in publishing that describes when the illustration goes all the way to the end of the page without any border or margin. When the paper for the book is cut at the final trim size of the book, it's always possible for the machine to be off just a little bit. So if your illustration is sized at exactly the final trim size of the book, and it so happens the machine cuts like a millimeter too wide, then you will have an ugly white border all around. Yikes! So in order to avoid that, to have a nice perfect bleed every time, what we do is we make the illustration a little bit bigger and then it's trimmed over that. Voila! The extra size all around that's going to be trimmed off is what we call a bleed. It's not going to appear in the final book, but it's there just in case, and you need to make your illustration go all the way up to the end of the bleed. So these are the things that you need to ask your client before you can start. Now, if your client is something like a self-published author, it's possible that when you ask these questions that they will not know. And ditto, if you're creating this project for yourself and it's your first time going through this, you may not know. In this case, your client or you, if it's your project, need to investigate your printing options before you can start. Without the correct specs, you may be heading for a disaster. So ask your client, are they planning to print the book with Amazon KDP? Are they going with Ingram Spark? Are they going to go to a manufacturer to get the book printed? If it's Amazon KDP or Ingram Sparks or something similar, they both have all their list of specs on their websites. And if your author is going with a manufacturer, then they will have the list of specs. When you've obtained all this information from your client, then you're ready to start. So right before we continue, I'd really love to hear what software or app do you use to create your illustrations? I'm going to be demonstrating today in Photoshop, but the method is a little bit different in other programs such as Procreate. So would you like me to do the explanation over again in another program? Let me know in the comments down below. So first, let's create our document. First, let's click Create New, and this box appears where you can enter all of your specs. I'm working in Photoshop here, but you would have a similar info box in Canva, Clip Studio Paint, GIMP, etc. And also in Procreate. It actually used to be that Procreate did not have CMYK options, but now they do. So I'm going to enter here my final book size. It's going to be in inches, 10 by 10. I'm going to enter my DPI resolution, which in this case is going to be 300, and my color profile, CMYK. Create. So now I'm on my new file here. So first, I'm going to go in View and make sure that my rulers are selected. These are the little rulers that you can see here on the top and on the side. Next, I'm going to click from the ruler and drag it. It's going to create a guide that I can drag right here to the four corners of my canvas. The guide automatically snaps to the edge of the page, so it's very easy to do this. Next, we're going to create the other page so we have a double page spread. I'm going to click Image and Canvas Size. I'm going to make sure that this arrow here is selected so that all the space that I'm adding is going to be added only on the right side, not equally on both sides. And I'm going to change it to double. So 20 width is going to create 2 pages. I'm going to drag a final guide here, right here to the edge of the page. The last thing we need to do here is add our bleeds. So let's say for this project we have a 1/2 inch of bleed. This means 1/2 inch on every side. So let's go back to Image and Canvas Size. We're going to add 1/2 inch on all sides, which means a full inch vertically and a full inch horizontally. Now here, 1 inch is very easy to calculate. But if you have an uneven number, like 3/4 inch or something, and you're bad as math as I am, don't hesitate to use a calculator here, just to be absolutely sure and double check that you haven't messed up. This is really important. So now we have our bleeds all around, but notice that our guides that we place are still right here, so we can see exactly where the trim line is. Super! We could leave it like this if we wanted, but I recommend to actually draw a solid line over these guides to use. This is because the guides are made in such a way that everything snaps to them. So if you're trying to draw over them, it will mess up your line, and that can be very annoying. For instance, if I'm trying to draw here, it will affect my line here in the middle. So we want to replace our guides with some solid lines instead. We're going to pick a hard round brush here, nothing fancy, with no opacity or tapering. And we're going to pick around 5 or 6 pixels. Next, we're going to create a new layer, and then we're just going to hold the key Shift and draw in the near vicinity of this guide. Holding Shift makes it so you draw a perfectly straight line, and if you draw anywhere in the vicinity of this guide, it will automatically snap to it, so this is quite easy to do. Draw a line for every side and for the middle as well. When you're done, if you're ready to draw, you can go in View here and deselect Extras. This will hide the guides so that when you draw, they won't get in the way. It doesn't delete them, so you can still retrieve them whenever you want by going back here in View and clicking Extras again. And here you go, you have your completed, formatted children's book spread template. You can use this to draw all of the pages of your book, and you're sure that they will come out perfectly. If you're itching to get started illustrating your own children's books project, I have a free guide that you might find useful. It's called 7 Surprising Ways to Find Illustration Clients. It's completely free, and I will leave the link to download that in the description below. So that's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you did, then don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to help our small channel grow. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and thank you for being here. See you in the next one. Bye bye!